So, what would you little maniacs like to do first?
Hey, Lashy Kids and Driving Mutants. I am tired, but I'm still going to do this anyways. I'm not a midday person. I'm a night person. I come alive at the nighttime, so bear with me. I do want to talk about these two movies that I saw, one being Morbius and the other one being Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, because they are both horror movies. But before I get started, let me do a sound check. Can everyone hear me? Hey, Jonah and Ghostface, thank you so much for letting me know. Okay, I'm going to get started with Morbius. Let me share my screen. Well, actually, let me talk a little bit about it before I put up any images, except for, let me put up the poster for it at least. Hey, Tony, man, you made it. Got the work Wi-Fi password and the sound is great. Thank you. Hey, Lordran, thank you. Let's do it like that. Hey, Echo Cero. Let me take this banner off. Go back to the comments. Let me go through the comments one more time. Show everybody on the screen who's in the room. Jonah and Ghostface is here. Shout out. Tony Man 100 is here. Lordrin Tyrando is here. Oh, it's funny that your name actually says it's here in it. And Echo Zero is here. So let's talk about Morbius. The first thing I want to say about Morbius is it was way better than I expected. I heard so many people say that it was terrible. And then on top of it, it was a Sony release rather. Well, actually, it is a co-production. And I think that's probably why it was a little bit better, because it's usually some of these movies like Venom are completely Sony, but Morbius is a Sony Marvel co-production. And I think that's what gave it that little extra oomph that it needed to become better than what we've seen in the past from Sony. I also like that it was a horror movie, which is really cool, which I'm enjoying this next phase of Marvel. For those that don't know, I have watched all 28 Marvel movies. I have not read every single comic book. And I'm saying that because Morbius is one of the comic books I have not read. I was not familiar with Morbius at all. The comic books that I were familiar with were Thor, because my uncle had the Thor comic book series. I grew up watching the Incredible Hulk, so I knew about the Incredible Hulk. I watched the X-Men cartoons, so I knew about them. Who else did I already know about? I didn't really know that much about Captain America when it first came out. The other series that I didn't know anything about was Guardians of the Galaxy. Never heard of Guardians of the Galaxy until they made the movie. I did read the Eternals comic book, and I'm not talking about that movie because, like, the movie doesn't care about the original comic book, and I feel sad about that. But I did enjoy reading the Eternals comic book, the original one, not the one that I know that they did like a retcon, or I don't know what you call it when they do newer versions of the comic books and they change the stories. I don't know what that's called. I haven't read the new versions. So Morbius is in that same category with me with Guardians of the Galaxy, because I had no previous knowledge of them. And I didn't even know. Oh, another thing that makes it even weirder. My sister had the Blade comic books and she had the Spawn comic books. And I didn't come across Morbius in the particular books that she had. So I didn't know that he was connected to him in that way until this movie came out. Tony Man says, "You're about to make this last grueling hour of work fly by. Thanks." I hope so. I hope so. That was my plan. That's why I thought 4 o'clock would be a nice time, because that is the time of day when you really are ready to go home from work. And I remember when I was what I used to call a cubicle jockey. I used to be in a cubicle, and it's hell on earth. Shout out to the people working in cubicles. I feel bad for you. I feel your pain. I used to find something to listen to ease that last hour. And at the time, I think it was Wendy Williams was on the radio being messy, and sometimes Star was on the radio when he wasn't getting fired. See what else? Echo Sarah said, "I grew up on comics, have like over 800. So I've heard a lot of these. I have one Morbius where he is killed by Switchblade, a superpowered blade." Oh, wow. Tony Man says, "I know Morbius because he fought Spider-Man in the comics." Jonah says, "There are lots of horror comics too. They have one of Hatchet, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Sweatshop, and lots of others." Oh yeah, I know about the horror comics. Yeah, and also I've heard about Marvel Zombies, which I'll talk about more further into this broadcast. But I actually have, let me pull up my notes on Morbius, because I actually could take some notes on Morbius because I watched it on it was on video on demand. Whereas I don't have any notes on Doctor Strange, so that's going to be completely from memory, and my memory is trash, so be forewarned. But one of the things that I wrote, the first note I wrote is that it was very heavy in dialogue exposition. And that's because they're trying to kind of push more than one origin story into one movie. And they're doing like a DC. I'm calling it a DC because DC likes to do the whole one movie origin story, whereas Marvel takes their time. That's why we got 3 Iron Man movies and we got several Spider-Man movies. Morbius, I'm sure they're planning on doing sequels, but this story seemed a little bit rushed. But even with it being rushed, I thought that there was a lot of character development done in such a short period of time. Another criticism that I saw online were that some people didn't like the slow motion the slow to fast motion. If you haven't seen a movie, think of some of the action sequences in 300, where it would be fast motion to slow motion and back to fast motion. Excuse me. I liked that, but it's because I felt like it was there to illustrate how much faster Morbius is than human beings. It actually reminds me of how Anne Rice wrote the Vampire Chronicles. Like when you first read Interview with a Vampire, or even when you get to Queen of the Damned, she always explains or describes how the vampires move in the word she uses, preternaturally fast way. So fast that the human eye couldn't see it. So I feel like when they did the fast to slow motion in action sequences in this, it was for a reason, and I think it illustrated the point of how fast Morpheus is. I'm going to be sipping on some coffee. Sorry, I don't usually eat on stream. And I hate when people do. I don't watch mukbang videos because I hate listening to people chew. It's just a pet peeve of mine. And it's such an odd thing because it makes it hard to go to dinner because I really hate hearing people chew. Let's talk about the first attack scene on the boat. I really liked that attack scene. It kind of, the way that they laid it out was very similar to action sequences in Alien. Like the way the xenomorph hunts and takes people down, that's the way I felt Morpheus was moving in that sequence in the boat. It was really, really, really good. There's also some Easter eggs in here. I should, if I didn't put it on the title of this is a spoiler review. So if you don't want spoilers, this is probably not the stream for you. I will try to keep it as general as possible, but there's some specifics I want to get into, and I'm starting with one just now. We got a comment here. Echo Zero says that CGI for the attack scene was not good. No, it wasn't. It wasn't the best Marvel quality CGI. I have to admit to that. I don't think that it was up to the standard that we're used to with Marvel, but I could tell that they did not give this movie the same budget that they gave other movies. But again, it's because it's a co-production with Sony. So Sony has to take half of the L for that. One of the Easter eggs I wanted to bring up was the two detectives were talking and they mentioned, quote, that thing that happened in San Francisco. And that could be referring to Venom, but it could also be referring to Shang-Chi, because I think Shang-Chi was also in San Francisco. But because this is Sony, I'm leaning more towards that was a reference to Venom. Another thing that I noticed, and you'll have to tell me, the people that have read the Morbius comic book series, whether this is something he always had or whether this was just in the movie. On the inside of his cloak was like this really beautiful, vibrant fuchsia. And I wondered if that was like a callback to the cloak of Dracula, like when you think of the 1930s Dracula, or even, no, I would just say the 1930s Dracula. Yeah. Or the Dracula on the Monster Squad. That's the other one I was just about to say. Yeah, because when you watch the 1930s movie, since it's in black and white, you don't know that the inside of his cloak is red, but it actually is red. Although my grandmother can tell. It's the oddest thing. If I watch a black and white movie with my grandmother, she can tell you what color certain things are, even though they're in black and white, because she grew up watching black and white. Speaking of CGI, another thing that was a little bit lacking was the morphing in his face. I do like that they showed him in several stages, like the frail Michael Morbius, and then when he takes the serum and he becomes stronger, and then when he's I would say half vampire, when it's just the eyes and his ears changing, and then there's the full vamp Morbius. I liked that there was several states, but I didn't like the CGI face change. It didn't look good. It looked kind of cheap. Hey, Mafalme, how are you doing? Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. The other note I made was about his power set, which vampires' power sets are cool anyways. So that was going to be a given with me. Let's talk about the relationship between him and his friend Milo. Actually, let me put up a picture of that, where that started, because I thought that was really cool. Usually I would have made a slideshow, but I didn't have time, so please bear with me. I liked the introduction of Milo as a child, how they met in the home for disabled youth. And I wish that the movie had spent just a little more time with them, maybe 5 or 6 more minutes, because that's what made it feel so rushed. They should have left just a little bit more time with them before we jump forward to them as adults. But I liked their relationship. Echo says the Morbius movie takes place in the same reality as the Venom movies. Shang-Chi is in the main MCU universe. Thank you. Let me see what else I have in my notes. When they jump to being adults, there is a scene where Morbius ends up in jail. I won't say how. And Milo comes to see him in jail. And I kind of liked how they revealed what Milo did. Like there was the first evidence was him leaving his cane behind for Michael. And then when he started walking out of jail, why did my mind start thinking of Kaiser Sose? I was like, is he about the Kaiser Sose, everybody? Yeah, he Kaiser Sose everybody. If you've seen The Usual Suspects, you know what I'm talking about. And then there's something else that Milo kept on doing that also reminded me of something else. Don't know whether it was a homage to that or not, or whether it was just coincidental. But whenever Milo would get excited about his current state, he did this Ric Flair woo. I laughed every time he did it. He was excited about a certain event that happens to him, and several times he does that Ric Flair woo, and I got my life. I like that. I like that he was excited. Let me see if we have a picture here of him when he gets older. I don't know why my voice is struggling. Here's a picture of them when he went to visit him in jail. How Milo looks older, and we know how Morbius looks older. This scene was also really cool because he eventually gets out of jail. They have this chase scene. Oh, actually, let me look at some of the comments before I go continue. My father says, I'm just watching. I never seen this. Oh, I don't know whether you were here when I said it. This is a spoiler review, so be forewarned. I'm trying to keep it more general, not super, super specific, but there are some spoilers, so I will warn you. There's a sequence where they have this chase scene, and it's through the subway. And there was one part where they're running through the subway, and it looks like the same escalator that Joe Button was tripping down. And I don't know why that came to mind, but it was funny to me. A lot of the sequences in this movie kind of make you feel like you're watching an 80s action movie, but also a 90s science fiction movie. Like some of the action scenes are very 80s action, running through the streets. Oh, and one of the things that makes it feel more like a 70s and 80s is when they are outside on the streets, you see people walking around them, and the way the camera is shot up, the way the audio is shot up, it really feels like you're watching something that was made in the 70s or 80s. But then some of the more horror oriented scenes kind of kept on reminding me of Species. I don't know if you ever seen the very first Species when Syl is loose and she's doing what she's doing in the city. This kind of reminded me of that. Not in any of the scenes that happen, not in the plot, but in the way that it's shot, the way that it's set up. Echo says, I like the X-Men Easter egg they do early in the movie. I missed it. I don't have in my notes that there's an X-Men Easter egg. Oh, you got to tell me what that is. Tony says, I think he means just watching for you. You could do a live reading a dictionary and he still watch. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Okay, I'm going to read directly from my notes. I wrote, Sony is getting better at storytelling. They were able to squeeze a lot of character development into a very rushed origin story. That's like the nuts and the bolts of it. And I talked about the CGI transformations, how they're better than Sci-Fi Channel transformations, but they're not Marvel standard. I did note that this may have been done to make it less scary. Because what was this rated? Was this a PG or PG-13? I believe it was PG-13. And that's okay, because the kids have to have something to watch too. And it kind of, if I were to rate it on its scale of scariness, it's right there with like Ghostbusters to me. Like if I was 9 years old, this and Doctor Strange would probably be my favorite movies of the summer if I was me when I, at 9 years old, the way I was when Ghostbusters came out. So yeah, I think it's cool. And you got to have entry level stuff for the kids to enjoy too before they get into hardcore horror. There is a mid-credit scene and there's an after-credit scene. But what I'll do is I'll talk about those at the end of this video. Someone please remind me if I forget. Okay. Let me see. Echo Sarah says, there was a line early in the movie where the doctor taking care of Morbius says he knows of a school in New York he wants to send him to. Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of it that way. Very, very true. And he says, the school in New York is for a school for gifted youngsters. Yeah. I didn't even think of it that way. That's so true. The Xavier. Yeah. The X-Men school is called Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Yes. That one went right over my head. Very, very cool. I will say one thing before I get to towards the end of the video. The mid-credit scene, I'm okay with. I thought that was fine. I felt like the after-credit scene was redundant and that they should have revealed a different character, and I'll tell you what character that is towards the end of this video. Because what they did is, like, the reveal in the mid-credit scene and the reveal in the after-credit scene are almost the same to me. So I don't know why they even split it into two different scenes. But that's that on that. I'm going to look through the gallery and see if there's anything I forgot to mention before I go on to Doctor Strange. This is a cool picture of Morbius when he's in his vampire state. Let me see if I can get that off the screen. I thought it looks cool when it's not morphing. When it's morphing, it kind of loses something, loses impact. Tony says, please, I was brought up watching The Howling and American Werewolf. Well, yeah, I'm not talking about us. In Generation X, we've watched a whole bunch of stuff we weren't supposed to watch. I mean, one of the earliest before I saw Ghostbusters, I saw The Thing, I saw Alien. There was another one I saw before, and Poltergeist. I saw those three movies, before I think Poltergeist, I was at least in kindergarten or first grade by the time I saw that. But I was a toddler when I saw Alien and I saw The Thing. No, The Thing, I might have been in kindergarten too. Either way, I was a little kid. And you know how parents at that time, what they would do is take you to the drive-in in your pajamas and think that you're going to fall asleep when the second movie comes on. But you don't always fall asleep when the second movie comes on. And that's how I end up seeing those. Although I did kind of I fell asleep on The Thing because it starts off very, very slow. So I didn't actually get to see it in full until it was on video and I was a little bit older. But I remember seeing the men in the snow and the dog running in, and I fell asleep because it wasn't that interesting. And I think I did the same thing with Alien. I remember seeing the beginning of Alien. I remember seeing the chest burster scene, and then I fell asleep. And that's another one that I got to see in full when it came out on video. I was brought up watching 100 Tears. I seen that movie sounds familiar. I want to say I've seen 100 Tears. Does it have a clown in it? That might be one of those killer clown movies. Yeah, I think I'm finished with Morbius for now. I'm going to get Jonas says yes, it does have a clown. So I do remember that movie. So I'm going to go on to Doctor Strange for now. So let me switch to I can't see if it switched. Let me see. Yes, it did switch. Okay. Let's put up the poster. So I can put my phone down now because for Doctor Strange, I got to do this all off the top of my head, whatever I can remember. I will say, Wanda is that chick. I don't care what anybody says. Wanda is that chick. And know what's sad? You're not supposed to root for the villain, but I'm rooting for the villain. Why? Put that right there. Okay. Okay, Tony Man says it's from 07. It's on Tubi right now. Oh. I knew I remembered that movie, but I don't think I can't remember whether I reviewed. I might have reviewed that and completely forgot about it. I have to look at my clownathon and see if I reviewed 100 Tears. Because I did do a clownathon. Jonas says, yeah. Landra says Wanda was on that demon dust for real. I liked her. She's probably my favorite villain right now. But what I liked about Doctor Strange was that there was, well, for one thing, we knew we were going to get some horror because Sam Raimi directed this one. And if you know anything about Sam Raimi, he is very famous for doing the Evil Dead 1 and 2. And why do I always forget the name of the last one? I'm really having a brain fart right now. Army of Darkness. I don't know why my mind just blanked for a second there. And then he also did some Spider-Man movies as well. But I really like those. Oh, and Drag Me to Hell, which is one of the movies I really like that's very underrated. I think a lot of people kind of crapped on that movie because it wasn't the scariest thing ever, but it's really entertaining. Tony says, should have been called Scarlet Witch in the Universe of Madness. Well, honestly, Doctor Strange was in it as much as she was in it, but his character wasn't. His character's very subdued in a way. He works better in a team. Like the best time he shined is when he had his back and forth with Iron Man. I thought that was really good when he was going back and forth with Iron Man. He shined more, but without the team, there's something about, I don't know whether it's Benedict Cumberbatch. I can't say it. Cumberbatch. It's a tongue tie. His name is a tongue. I can't even say it. I can't even say tongue tie. Benny. I'm going to call him Benny. I don't know if it's Benny's acting or the writing, but there's something that is not making him the star of his own movies. And they could have done a little bit more with the multiverse. Like they only went to about 2 or 3 multiverses. And if you're going to call it the Multiverse of Madness, you need to jump through those multiverses. Like we saw more multiverses in Loki than in this movie. And I felt like that was a missed opportunity. Even if it was just a montage, it was kind of a missed opportunity. They gave us one little sequence where like for a moment they turned into like paint and then they went back. There was like pixelation and that little sequence that was cool, but it would have been better to actually see them jump through a few universes. Like not Well, that is technically jumping through a few universes, but more of a montage style than that little quick little snippet. It wasn't long enough. I'm gonna see if I could say it how Tony Mann wrote it out. Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah. And you would think I would be able to say Cumberbatch. I have cousins that have the last name Cumberbatch. What else am I forgetting? I want to talk about the different horror homages. There were horror homages in the score. There is a part of the score that sounds a little bit like when the Ghostbusters were on the roof with Zool. And there's a part of the score that sounded like Poltergeist at one point, and then there's a part of the score that's literally used in a battle, which I thought was really, really cool. And I'm sure the composer had a lot of fun with that sequence where I'll just say it because it's not that bad of a spoiler. Doctor Strange and an alternate Strange are fighting each other with musical notes. And it was one of the coolest sequences in the movie. And right now I'm literally using the pictures to jog my memory because I have no notes. I don't want to talk about that just yet because I want to do the spoilers at the end of this video. So I should talk about America. I think her name is pronounced Joshi Gomez, or Soshi Gomez. Forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, because I think it is an Aztec name actually, but I could be mistaken. But it sounds like an Aztec name. I thought she did a good job with what she was given because she was kind of thrown in there. Mafalmi says the original Ghostbusters was good. Yes, it was. And I think Ghostbusters 2 was good as well. I think America's character, they could have introduced her in a series on Disney Plus. I think instead of, I hate to say it, instead of Moon Knight, maybe they should have done her because Moon Knight was just, I thought, this is not a Moon Knight review, but I'm just going to say, Oscar Isaac's acting, excellent. The series itself, it's kind of okay. Wasn't amazing. It wasn't like, oh, I got to see this on Wednesday. It was just okay. Where is a picture of Wong? Because I want to talk about Wong. Thank y'all for bearing with me on this janky cast because I said it earlier, but I'll repeat it for anyone who came in later. Ordinarily, I would have had a slideshow prepared, but I didn't have time, so now I'm just doing this off the cuff. How do you guys not have a picture of Wong, who is the Sorcerer Supreme right now? Well, in this particular multiverse. There he is. I want to talk about him because I am happy that he is the Sorcerer Supreme, because I felt like if they did Doctor Strange and made him immediately the Sorcerer Supreme, it would have looked crazy because you have Wong there studying with the Ancient One for like decades, and then you would have Doctor Strange come along and just usurp him and be the Sorcerer Supreme right away. It wouldn't make sense. It would make him, what they used to call a Gary Stu, which is the male version of a Mary Sue. So I like that they're taking their time to get him to the point where he becomes Sorcerer Supreme. So shout out to Wong and his school right now. The new one wasn't that good. The new Ghostbusters, I don't think they're ever going to recapture what they had with the old Ghostbusters. And I blame Bill Murray because he's been a dick for so long. They wanted to do Ghostbusters 3 for many years, and Bill Murray was being a dick about it, and then until Harold Ramis passed away. And I'm just like, we could have had a Ghostbusters 3, but you wanted to be a dick. Ghostbusters 2 was amazing. God damn it. Thank you. I had fun with it, and I still listen to Bobby Brown's Ghostbusters theme song. I like it better than Ray Parker. What is it? Ray Parker Jr. Yeah, I could do the rap, but I won't do it. Not today. I'm not. I'd have to have a few drinks to do the Ghostbusters rap. Maybe on Halloween. I can't really go further without talking about some spoilers. Well, we're about 40 minutes into the broadcast almost, so yeah. So I will start. What I'm gonna do is I'll backtrack back to Morbius and talk about the end credit scene and the after credit scene. That back up. In the end credit scene, mid credit scene. Tony Man says Ray Parker's "I Want a New Drug." Yes, interesting story about that. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this, but I'll tell it just in case. They asked Huey Lewis and the News to do the theme song for Ghostbusters, and they declined. So then Ray Parker Jr. wrote the Ghostbusters theme song, and it kind of lifted off of "I Want a New Drug" because they wanted the Huey Lewis and the News sound. And that's the reason why when Back to the Future came out, Huey Lewis and the News did The Power of Love, because they weren't going to make the same mistake a second time. They figured, well, last time we said no, and they just copied what we sound like anyway, so this time we'll say yes. I do it to our own in the ish from Ghostbusters 2. Okay. All right, let's talk about the mid-credit scene, which introduces, why can't I remember his real name? I know he eventually becomes the Vulture, but Adrian Toomes, that's right. They introduce Adrian Toomes, who just manifests inside of a jail cell. And because they have no record of him or why he's been arrested, they let him go. And so that's your mid-credit scene, the introduction of Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture. That's fine. I'm like, okay, that's cool. He's here. And he probably got jumped from one multiverse to another multiverse. That's what I'm guessing the materialization was supposed to represent. Then the after credit scene, they just show the Vulture again, but in his Vulture costume. And I'm like, instead of doing that, since you already let us see the Vulture, you should have introduced, this is just my opinion, because Morbius connects to Blade, and all throughout Morbius, he's talking about this serum that he's made that's an artificial blood. So I thought, and I know you might think I'm going with Blade. No, they should have had Whistler, because Whistler also worked on a serum for Blade. That would have been the perfect after credit scene to kind of tie him into the Blade universe without, introducing Blade too early. You introduce a younger Whistler and let us know how he ended up working with Michael Morbius on a serum. That's how I would have done an after credit scene. What does this one say? Why can I not see that? Okay, I played that one already. Okay, I'm caught up on the comments. Now let's get into the Doctor Strange spoiler talk. Number one, the Illuminati. That was a lot of fun. Some of the characters I was not super familiar with. You're gonna see I'm gonna look like a jerk here because I don't remember his name. The guy with the tuning fork on his head that could kill you with his voice. That was a cool character to have for however long as we had him. And then the crazy thing is they also introduced what is her name? I want to call her Captain Britain, but that's not what they call her. what do they call Captain Britain in I saw her in the What If series cartoon, but now I'm not understanding, or not understanding, I'm not remembering what her name was. I was just calling her Captain Britain, but she was there. I thought that was cool, and it was really like they made the cartoon come to life, because everything you saw in the What If cartoon is what she looked like, how she moved, how she fought. That was really, really great. There was an alternate version of Captain Marvel, which was, see, this is why I need notes, because I never remember anyone's name. Not Monica Rambeau. Monica Rambeau's mother, right? The last name Rambeau. She was the Captain Marvel in that particular multiverse. And who am I forgetting that was there? Did I say Reed Richards was there? Reed Richards was totally there. Captain Carter. Thank you. Thank you, Lordran. The person I'm calling Captain Britain was named Captain Carter. I said Reed Richards was there. And then finally, you hear the music before you see him. You hear that, dun, 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 and you hear that X-Men music. And Professor Xavier comes rolling up. Not the X-Men movie chair he had. The yellow chair that he had in the X-Men cartoon. That was just, for me, that was an amazing moment when he came rolling through there. But then, you know, Morbius is trying to tell them that Black Widow is coming, and they were not prepared. They really underestimated her. Who was the character that said, "We'll handle your little witch"? I can't remember. One of them said that, "We'll handle your little witch," like it wasn't nothing. And let me show you how she looked when she got done with them. This right here. That's how she looked when she got done with them. It was oddly satisfying, even though like you don't want to see people, you know, get messed up. The way she messed them up. And then one of the craziest thing is how they introduced Reed Richards as the smartest man in their multiverse. But if you're the smartest man in their multiverse, why would you tell her Black Bolt? That was the guy's name. Black Bolt can kill you with the sound of his voice. Why would you tell her that if you're the smartest man in the universe? That seems like a dumb thing to say. And then she was like Wishmaster. She was like, what mouth? And then she made his head explode from the inside. That was, for a horror fan like me, that I enjoyed seeing that. And she turned Reed Richards into ribbons. Like she stretched him out literally. And then made his head explode. Like that's adding insult to injury. Just make this dude's head explode. Then the last two that were fighting her, which I don't know. I mean, I like Captain Carter, but you had to know Captain Carter. You were nothing to mess with Wanda. Like that was, you got heart. You definitely have heart. As she said, Captain Carter said, "I can do this all day," just like how Captain America said, but she could not, in fact, do it all day. Sorry, she could not do it all day. The only person that had a fighting chance was Captain Marvel, the Rambeau version of Captain Marvel. She gave her a run for her money, but even she still couldn't. She couldn't mess with Wanda. Honestly, I was having this conversation with my sister. Probably the only person that could mess with Wanda would be, and at this point would have been Jean Grey, but Jean Grey hasn't been introduced yet. But I hope they do lead up to a battle between Wanda and Jean Grey, because that would be expensive, but it would be epic to see. But this whole sequence, and it's not lost on me that the way they dripped the blood on her is very similar to Carrie. It looks like Carrie. And the way she was chasing, at one point she's chasing Doctor Strange, another doctor who's like this multiverse's version of his girlfriend, although she's not his girlfriend. It's hard to explain. In America, through these tunnels, but the way she's chasing them, it kind of reminded me of Hellraiser when the engineer, there's a creature in Hellraiser that's called the engineer. That's like this, I don't know how to describe it. I'll just say it's a messed up creature. When that creature is chasing someone through the walls, that's what the sequence of Wanda chasing Doctor Strange, America, and the Doctor Lady through the tunnel reminded me of. It had that feel of that engineer creature from Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2. I think the engineer creature also appears in Hellraiser 2. Tony says, basically, it was an unsustainable witch kill innocent people across the multiverse. I can do this all day, gets chopped in half. Yes, she did. She got split in two with her own shield. It was nice. And it was a great balance for it to be, I want to say this was also PG-13, if I'm not mistaken, where they gave you just enough to keep an adult entertained, but not too scary for a child, but just scary enough. I enjoyed that. Like that's probably my favorite scene of the movie is when Wanda took on the Illuminati and just, she ran right through them. It was great. There's also another horror section of the movie, Unstable Witch. Yeah. Which I actually put on the thumbnail for this video because I liked how that looked. And it kind of, the way they animate the jaw, I'll talk about that in a second. Where is that picture? This is the only time that it helps to have a co-host because then somebody can fill in the gaps in time when you're looking for something. Here it goes. In the Doctor Strange movie, this particular one, they introduced something, a concept called dream walking, which Wanda uses to jump through universes without physically jumping through universes. She's able to occupy her alternate self, almost like possession. It's almost like you're possessing someone else's body, and that's what Wanda does to her alternate self in this alternate multiverse. And Doctor Strange has to try to do the same thing, except the alternate him is dead. So he possesses the dead Doctor Strange's body. And I thought that was really cool when he's doing the dream walking thing in order to help America end up fighting Wanda. And what's funny with when Sam Raimi does zombie-like characters, he always makes the jaw move funny. Like they'll be talking, but it's only the bottom part of the jaw that moves. So they'll be like, and I can't help not look at it. It's funny as heck to me. But this sequence looked really well. And you know what? Now that I'm talking about it, comparing the CGI in this to the CGI in Morbius, you can see the deficit in budget that Morbius was working with. And I think that's also why a lot of it was shot in the dark. Like a lot of Morbius scenes were really darkly lit. And I think that was to compensate and cover up for their lack of great CGI. Whereas in Doctor Strange, there's some dark scenes. Like this scene is fairly dark, but it's still better lit than most of the scenes in Morbius. I don't have any images from the mid-credit scene and the post-credit scene. The mid-credit scene has Doctor Strange. Well, this kind of lines up with it. This is an alternate Strange with the third eye. And what happens in the mid-credit scene. In the mid-credit scene, our universe's Doctor Strange comes out of the building and he's walking down the street in New York and he gets an amazing headache that crumbles him to his knees and reveals that he has a third eye as well. So that's our mid-credit scene. I was like, okay, we'll see where that goes. I wasn't super excited about it, but it was interesting enough. And I was also having a conversation about why the third eye looks a little funny. I think that's one of the one things that in Doctor Strange that they CG didn't work all that well with. And I think I figured out why the third eye looks funny. Because they just plopped it there on top of his forehead. And if a third eye were real, it would have a socket in the skull. Like if you notice your eyes have sockets, there's a bone structure around the eye sockets. So when you just plop this one right here on the top, it doesn't, it doesn't, your mind doesn't accept it, if that makes sense. I think that's why. Hey, Brian, how are you? Says going on. This type of channel is some fresh air. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. So did I talk about the post-credit scene yet? No, I did not. In a post-credit scene, we're introduced to a character that I am unfamiliar with. I have read that she becomes Doctor Strange's wife in the future, and she may be oh no, that's a mid-credit scene. I'm sorry. That's a mid-credit as well, because there's 3. there was the Doctor Strange coming out, third eye. Then the second one was the introduction of this character that kind of slices open a hole in time and space and tells Doctor Strange, hey, you got to go with me. I cannot recall her name. I'm not familiar with her. Somebody in the comments who was watching me knows who this character is and if she belongs to the X-Men, the Avengers, or somewhere in between, because Wanda belongs to both. Like she's both in the X-Men series and in the Avengers. So let me know who that character is. What's her name? All I read about her is that someone on Twitter said that she becomes Doctor Strange's wife. So that's interesting. And then the final one is what Tony Man was just now chatting about. He's saying you're forgetting Bruce Campbell, the car, and the hand slapping at the dog cart. Yes, Evil Dead. There is a scene with Bruce Campbell where he plays actually it wasn't a hot dog cart, it was a pizza ball cart, because America had stolen a pizza ball because she thought it was free, because in certain universes food is free. And he was like, hey, you got to pay for that. And Doctor Strange casts a spell on him to where he makes him, abuse himself. And it's very much like Evil Dead. Actually, Evil Dead 2, not the first Evil Dead. It was Evil Dead 2 when his hand went crazy and started attacking himself. It was kind of a repeat of that, or homage to that. But he also shows up at the very, very end of the credits, hitting himself a couple more times, and he finally stops. And then he just looks at the camera and says, it's over. And then that's the end. Lorden says the third eye represents your soul or mind's eye, literally. Oh, yes, I understand that. I was just talking about the actual representation of it in CGI. But yes, I do understand about the third eye. I didn't ask if I know a few people said they hadn't seen either movie yet. Anyone who has seen Morbius or Doctor Strange, what are your thoughts on it? Or is there anything that I neglected to mention that you want to talk about? Also, the reason why I didn't play the Ric Flair woo is because WWE is about as bad as Disney when it comes to copyright. So that's why I didn't play any clips from these movies, not even the trailers, because they will ding me. And WWE is the same way. They would ding me if I so much as play the Ric Flair woo. Nobody has anything to say about these movies? No, it could be that you are listening at work and you might not be able to stop what you're doing to type. Just thought of that. So let me talk about what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow's live stream is going to be later. It's going to be at 7 p.m. And I'm going to be talking about From, which is on Epics, but you can also get it on Amazon, I think it's Amazon Prime. And then the other thing I want to talk about is Atlanta, because this last season is amazing. And I'm going back and forth on whether to add a third program to it, because watching this last season of Atlanta has really, really reminded me a lot of Twin Peaks. So I was going back and forth on whether I would also cover Twin Peaks, but there's so many episodes of Twin Peaks. There's only 10 episodes of From and only 10 episodes of Atlanta, which is why I paired them together, because that way when I do the series, it'll be even. And if I included Twin Peaks with it, it would be uneven. But a part of me still wants to talk a little bit about Twin Peaks, because Atlanta is so much like, it's literally if Twin Peaks was in Atlanta. Tony says, wait until the season finale of Atlanta. I'm actually going to start tomorrow. I'm only going to talk about the first 2 episodes. And then next week I'll talk about, episodes 3 and 4. I'm going to do it that way. So I'm not talking about the whole series just yet. Lorden says, the way the white woman cooked the chicken had me dead as hell. You don't even understand. Like, oh my God, the way she put, it's like a moment. I need to have a moment of silence for what she did. Let me do like this so I can come back full screen and talk a little bit about that. It was terrible. It was terrible. I've actually been to a person's house one time that did that with pork chops. And I remember I was sitting at the table and I just started talking. Just talking. And acting like, I had so much to say. And then I said, oh, you know what? My food got cold. Can I use your microwave? And I microwaved that thing until it was cooked through. Because you're not going to poison me with salmonella. I'm sorry. No, like certain things you can eat rare. Pork chops and chicken are not the type of things you can eat rare. Tony said, did you watch the last one? I did not watch the one from this past Friday. The last one I watched was the one about the scholarship, which was an amazing episode as well. And I really want to talk about that. Off subject, there's a voice acted readout of a comic titled Joker. There's something seriously wrong with that mane. Oh yeah. The Joker has done some sick stuff. The Joker has cut his own face off. It's really messed up. What's messed up is when people idolize the Joker. It's like, are you sure? Do you understand what it is that you're idolizing? I mean, I get part of the Joker's point, because one of the points that he makes is that everyone is one bad day away from being as bad as him. Which, I mean, you could say everyone is one bad day away from snapping, but not everyone is one bad day away from being as bad as him. Lorna says, I'm sorry that happened to you. It's okay. The person meant well. Like, whenever people invite you to dinner, usually they mean well, but so we have cultural differences in how we prepare food. That's a given. And it's just important that we learn these cultural differences. But yeah, that first episode really set the tone. And it starts out with, let me stop, because this is what I want to talk about tomorrow. And let me show you the poster for From, if you guys are not, well, if you've seen the my thumbnail for it, you've seen the poster, but it stars Harold Perrineau, which you might know him from Oz. What else was he in recently? I can't even think of recently, but I know he was in Oz for many years. And before that, I knew him from I think it was Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, but he's a phenomenal actor. And he's also does an amazing job in From, which it's a horror series. They never really tell you quite what the creatures are. The creatures have qualities of different creatures, which I'll get into tomorrow. But it's about some people that are trapped in this town with these creatures, and it's a really, really good show. It snuck up on me because I hadn't heard anything about it until I just happened to see that it was available. The first episode was free because every now and then Epics will have, like, you know how HBO used to have that free weekend? Epics will have these free weekends on the app. And so I watched the first episode or the first 2 episodes, and then I had to find it on Amazon. Tony says, thanks for making this hour fly by. You made a bad day great for me. I could wait here and ride when you're done. Well, I'm about to wrap up now because it's 5:05. Lorgen says, From is crazy as hell, but a great show too. Yes. And that's right. He played Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet. I felt like him and Romeo and Juliet and John Leguizamo, amazing acting. I don't even like Romeo and Juliet. I only saw it because I happened to be working at the movie theater when it came out. So I would go in there on my break sometimes. Sometimes you get tired of watching the same thing because during the time I worked in the movie theater, I watched Blade like 18 times. What else came out when I was at the movie theater? Titanic came out, but I never watched it because I was like, I know how it ends. Why would I watch that? What else was out during that time period? I'll have to pull out my pins another time to show you. I kept most of the promotional pins they would have us wear at the movie theater. Dude was the autistic guy in Claws. Yes, he was in Claws. Yeah, everything that Harold Perrineau plays, and he does a phenomenal job. Like, there's 3 actors that are so good that they really should be at a higher status than what they are. And that's John Leguizamo, Harold Perrineau, and Oscar Isaac. They would be, I'll just put it plainly, if they were white, they would be nominated for Oscars already, over and over and over again, and Emmys. They just are amazing. Joker has become romanticized in film, if you will. The comics show how messed up he is. Joker 2019 only scratched the surface. A real Joker film would be X-rated and not for the sex. Oh, yeah. Even in the cartoon, there was like a cartoon. I don't remember the name of it, but I think I wasn't paying attention to it. It was playing in the background. My younger sister was watching it. And I can't remember which cartoon it was, but I could swear the Joker had broken some girl's back and then sent Polaroids to her father of her broken back. It was crazy. It was crazy. But yes, that Joker 2019 movie, it did really scratch the surface of what's going on with him. But I think it took too many detours, and it was trying, I think to its detriment, it was trying to be too artsy rather than delve deeper into his madness. It really could have delved deeper. Tony says, Joker was a darker version of The Comedian directed by Scorsese. Yeah, I have not seen The Comedian, but I have heard about that, and I've heard that about this movie. The Killing Joke. Was it The Killing Joke? Know what? I'm confusing that. I did not see The Killing Joke. I saw, it was either called Escape from Arkham Asylum or something Arkham Asylum, but I did not see The Killing Joke. But yeah, the Joker is a pretty messed up dude. You would really have to go hard R if you were really going to give us, what the Joker really, really does. And with that, let me get out of here because I need to get something to eat. I did not have lunch and I need to prepare better for tomorrow. I'm trying to do this day after day and try to get better and better at it. Thank you so much for sticking with me, as janky as this cast was. I will work hard to get better and better at streaming. If you're not familiar with From, try to check that out. If you have access to watch Atlanta, try to check that out. I'm only going to talk about the first 2 episodes of both series tomorrow, and then we'll proceed from there. And it's the same thing with Thursday. Thursday, I'm going to talk about, what did I have planned? Hellbound and Ju-On Origins, which are both on Netflix. And then on Friday, I'm going to talk about the first 2 episodes of The Hitchhiker and Freddy's Nightmares. The Hitchhiker is on YouTube, so you just have to type in The Hitchhiker episode 1, The Hitchhiker episode 2, and it'll pop up on YouTube for free. And Freddy's Nightmares is on Tubi for free. Echo says, the one bad day monologue from Killing Joke is one of my faves. It was great. Don't be so hard on yourself. I know, but I want to be, the point is I want to be better. I want to be one of these people who has all the bells and whistles and can transition more easily, but I'm limited by, number one, I'm using a Chromebook and they're only but so powerful, but it's a good little computer. I don't want to knock it, but it's not the most powerful of powerfuls. And also my internet is not the most powerful of powerful. So I'm working with what they call a handicap in golf. but I'm trying to do my best. So thank you very much for the encouragement. I always appreciate that. And with that, have a good day. Travel safely if you're coming from work. If you're over in the UK, have a good evening. Try to relax. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.